All, I just love skiing, like so much. There's nothing in the world that brings me more joy ever.
Scared to death right now, but I've got this. Like, I know deep down inside I'm capable of what I'm about to do.
I felt like the rehab was pretty simple and straightforward, and I learned how to appreciate my body and how to take care of it, what to eat and like to stretch. I was 18, so I felt like I was invincible at the time.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Athletic Stance Podcast, a skier's perspective with your host, yours truly, Scott Chrisman. In this podcast, I have made it my job to go out and interview skiers at the highest level of the sport, to explore their perspective on life, what shaped and influenced them to become the person they are, and a whole lot more. First, let's take a look at our sponsors, because without them, none of this is possible. Our first sponsor is Northwest Tech. If you haven't heard of them yet, you're missing out. They hand make customizable 3-layer outerwear to order in the Pacific Northwest. And that means you know that it keeps you warm, dry, and looking unique while you're sending it around the mountain. They've been generous enough to give me a coupon code for my listeners. Use the code AOS75 to get $75 off any custom piece of outerwear. Their site is in the show notes. This episode is brought to you by POC. POC makes the best helmets, goggles, and protective wear out there. They've been dedicated to protecting athletes since day one, and I wouldn't wear a different helmet, goggle, back pad, or hip pads. With their spin technology and VPD system, there are no other products on the market that are like it. Definitely go and check out pocsports.com and protect yourself today.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Athletic Stance, a skier's perspective with yours truly, Scott Chrisman. I am very excited to bring you guys this week's episode. It is chock full of fitness and nutrition talk about the ketogenic diet, intermittent fasting or windowed eating, mindset, and our guest this week is an unbelievable multi-sport athlete. Not only has he done very well in skiing and collaborated on movie projects with Alexei Godbout and had the winning run for the Swatch Skiers Cup, but he has also been in the Redbull Rampage and is just an extremely talented and hardworking athlete. Without further ado, I introduce to you Mr. Casey Deane.
My name's Casey Deane. I grew up in North Idaho. I grew up there, and then I left when I was 19, and I went to Tahoe, and kind of with the idea of I wanted to go to either Whistler, I wanted to go to Salt Lake, or maybe Lake Tahoe. I didn't know like which one to go to, and I obviously I couldn't get a visa for Canada at the time, and I ended up going to Tahoe and Reno because my brother was there going to school, and went to become a pro skier basically, and then I was there for like 6 years, and then ended up in Salt Lake briefly, and then I've been up here now in Whistler for the last like 8 years probably.
What was like the original thing that got you into skiing? Was it your parents? For most of us, it was our parents, but sometimes it was like the school or just, being around.
No, it was my dad. My dad had skied, long before that, and then he was actually patrolling on the hill when I started skiing. I was like 3 years old. So yeah, just kind of like a family thing. Like our whole family did it when I was growing up.
Totally. Did you ever do any sort of like team skiing when you were growing up, like racing or anything like that benefited you or didn't?
I did team sports, but I actually never did any racing. I think I did maybe like 1 or 2 races. as a little kid, but yeah, I've kind of just always been a backcountry guy. I mean, that's what my dad loved to do, is ski pow, and then that just like moved on down into me, And so we were always just going up on powder days and just skiing the hill. And then when I was 9 or 10 years old, we got snowmobiles, which were much cheaper at the time. And we started skiing in the backcountry, and that's kind of like the evolution of I guess my skiing, and that's really how I became now to be, like a big mountain or backcountry professional skier.
Totally. And you're not just a big mountain skier. You also do biking. So how did you get into, you crush it on a bike. How did you get into mountain biking, and what was that journey like for you? Similar?
Getting into mountain biking for me was a little bit easier because I felt like I had the cheat codes, I mean, to become like a professional athlete in the sense that you're just shooting and filming, it's like there's a lot of gray area, in almost any sport. I feel like whether you're a free surfer or, a backcountry skier, or maybe even just like a street skater, you're just like, okay, well, I want to be a pro skater. Well, how do I get to that point? So when I was in skiing, I was like trying to compete and do all this other shit. And then finally, when it came back to it, I just started doing what I wanted to do. But in doing that, it led me to working with some of the world's greatest photographers, which I've been super fortunate to do. And then understanding how things work with like budgets and filming and sponsors, and that, when you watch like a ski movie, it's not just the sickest skiers. Like, yeah, they're good, but it all comes down to who sponsor is paying for your video part. That determines really who you work with. So if like I'm on one sponsor and they're sponsoring MSP, it's hard for me just to go film with TGR or Level One. It's like I have to film with where my sponsor sees, the greatest, advantage for like where they're going to put their money. So, so anyway, I've kind of like figured all that out in skiing over like 6-7 years, and then I went to Rampage in 2012 as a spectator. I didn't really know much about it. I mean, I kind of knew about the contest, and then I had ordered a bike because I was actually skiing for Scott Sports at the time, and I rode it like maybe a handful of times in the beginning of the summer, and then just like went to South America for 2 months. Came home and then go up to Rampage, and I was just blown away. I was like, whoa, what is this? I was just like really, I guess, captured my imagination. And I remember I was there actually with a bunch of skiers. I was there with like Jen Hudak, Scott Hibbert, who was a team manager for Under Armour at the time, like Rachel Burks, Pat Pujas. And I was like, this is sick. Like, I want to do this. And everybody just laughed at me there. It was just like, dude, you're going to die if you did this, And I was just like, no, like I could totally hit any of this stuff. Not right now, but I'll be able to do this. And everybody just laughed at me, and I was like, all right, whatever. And so I was living with Wiley Miller at the time in Salt Lake, because my girlfriend lived in Salt Lake at the time. And this was 5 years ago, 6 years, 5, 6, 7. Holy shit. I don't know. It was a while ago, but so in 2012, yeah, I went, and after Rampage, I just started riding the bike that I had ordered, and started going to Green River and riding and shooting those lines in the desert, because I had a background in like, I grew up riding bikes a bit, and then I raced motocross professionally from the time that I was like 18, 19 until about 25. So riding motocross, I mean, I was used to jumping and going fairly fast on 2 wheels. So when it comes down to it, though, I just knew like, okay, well, if I want to do this, obviously getting into Rampage, that's something I don't know how to do, which took me 2 years to do it. With the shooting and the filming, I just knew already a lot of the photographers that shot skiing, shot biking, Matthias Fredrickson, Bruno Long, Grant Gunderson, all those like world-renowned photographers. That's what they did in the summer. So they already knew me, and I just hit them up and was like, hey, and the main guy that I was working with at the time was Steve Lloyd. who kind of gave me my first chance. And then I told Steve, I was just like, dude, this is what I want to do. And he kind of even like scoffed at me a little bit, but he's just like, dude, you can't just go like ride all this stuff. And I was like, all right, well, you can either come with me or I'm gonna just go do it by myself, which is kind of like my mentality. And so I've been riding for maybe like, I don't even know, a couple weeks or whatever, a month, and in around Park City, and I was just like, I'm going to Green River, and just started like hiking lines and riding down it, and slowly just started hitting drops, and then that's kind of like how my whole mountain bike career just spawned off of that fall, actually.
Yeah, crazy, man. Super crazy. Was that the same year as the Skiers Cup? Were you down in South America for the Skiers Cup that year?
Yeah, that was actually a pretty wild year because I was down in South America. I was coaching for camps at the time, and then I did a magazine story, and then with Jake James Heim and Michelle Parker, we're over in Argentina, and then Cody Townsend just called me and was just like, "Hey, we have a spot on the team at Skiers Cup. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm in." So, and it was cool. It's actually like, so that point too is actually cool because that was like, that was a fairly big, I guess, shift almost in my career in general, because like I had always been skiing or whatever, but that between Skiers Cup and then going to Rampage, it was just, I feel like that Skiers Cup, like when we won that, because a lot of people in skiing, like I feel like knew who I was then, but then going to Skiers Cup and being like on that stage with just like all those world class dudes, who are just
Yeah.
the sickest skiers on the planet, pretty much, and to like put down all of my runs, and then like the USA team or like the North America team killed it, and but it came down to like the last run was tied, and it was against me and Patty Graham, and
Yep.
my run I ended up beating Patty to break the tie.
Yep.
And it was just like one of those deals where for me it was more like a mental thing, like where for me, like I always thought that I was there and that I was like an equal skier, but I felt like maybe I wasn't recognized as that. And then to like go up against those guys and have Cody like fully believe in me and like bring me onto the team, it was just like I proved it to myself, and then I also proved it to like my friend to Cody, and be like, yeah, like I can hang. Like I didn't let him down. So that was a really cool feeling. And then to come home from that, and then go to Rampage and just like have that drive and that know how just to be like, yeah, I'm gonna become a pro mountain biker. Like there is nothing that's gonna hold me back from this, and then go ahead and do it. That was kind of like all rolled up basically into like a month,
Yeah. Yeah, totally, man. I was there. I remember I hung out. I don't know if you remember this. I hung out with you and Oakley Allen White in the W, like on the balcony. You guys were flipping through magazines, like
Yeah.
seeing how many shots you got in magazines. And I was like, these guys, what the heck? Like, what a life like that. But no, it's so cool that you pursued it so long that not only like we all as athletes, we see our own infinite potential if you're confident in yourself, and if you do, like if you've done athletic feats before, or if you've overcome a lot of resistance, or just like as an athlete you see your own infinite potential. But then sometimes like the most powerful thing can be having other people see it. So yeah, that's so awesome that was a situation. I remember hanging out at the W in the pool afterwards, and it was like,
Yeah.
you, Oakley, Sam Smoothie, Cody Townsend, like everyone. And dude, that was just such an incredible experience for me. I don't know how I made it into the W, man. Like it's just some random ski bum, but somehow like it looked like I was one of you guys. I don't even know. Like I was a Sonia Lurcher and a couple of those other people.
Yeah, it was it was a heavy crew, and it was cool because like that's essentially the same feeling that like that I had. I was just like, it was kind of like one of those deals where it's just like I belong here. Like I'm not just like some kook that's just like trying to like do stuff. Like I put down runs against like the greatest dudes in skiing right now, and I like and I handled myself, you know. So, but I think that that's a really big thing, is just like the mental component basically of that. That's like a really big thing because I mean, it's all in the power of the mind, you know.
Totally. Yep. Yeah, it's amazing. I am going to get back into martial arts because I got my black belt when I was younger, and it was one of the things that actually strengthened my mind the most. And, you know, it does come down to like the strength of the mind and what the mind is willing to endure and overcome to see its visions to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing jujitsu recently, and it's awesome. It's, it's really good mentally, and like focusing on what you're doing, and yeah, making you think quickly and everything like that. So
Totally. How long have you been doing jujitsu?
I actually just started. My buddy Nate here in Pemby, he is really into it, and I actually I've like kind of always wanted to do it, and then I went on a surf trip, oddly enough, that made me want to do it due to a small altercation in the water. And but I was just like, man, I was just like, I would really like to do this just in case and something ever happened, maybe, you know, and then also just to like break up my training because I train a lot. So, you know, instead of just being in the gym, it's just like, okay, well, let's do something else besides that. So
Totally. While we're talking about it, what does like you mainly train in the gym? What does that look like for you?
I work out with the trainer here in Whistler. His name's Jordan Glasser, and he has Opus Athletics, which is like the CrossFit gym here. And but yeah, I work out with him, and that usually entails like being in the gym for an hour and just doing circuit training. And for me, like I kind of know what I want to do, and I've also talked with Jordan about that, where you know, even like a lot of times when they're doing like 1 rep maxes in the gym, I scale it just for what I want to do. And like I usually shut it down, and then I'll stop around like I don't know, maybe like a 4 rep max or something like that. So I'm not going super heavy.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so I just do that now. And then I'm also riding my bike, which, you know, could mean being on the bike for hours and hours a day. So, and then in the winter, I still do the same thing. I'm going to mix in also training like jujitsu, because it's a pretty high tempo activity, I guess you could say, and gets you out of breath pretty quick. Having somebody like Nate Nash try and choke you out.
Yeah, totally. Get out of this, man.
Yeah, but it's good because it's like you don't really realize how high your heart rate is. Like we were working out yesterday, and I was like, man, I feel like I'm kind of tired. Like I should be doing better than this. And I thought it was like an hour class or whatever. And I was like, oh, we've been in the gym for like 20, 30 minutes, and I've been in there for an hour and 45. And I didn't even realize, you know, so it passes really quick. Whereas like when I go lift and go do cardio or something like that, it's not something that like comes and goes quickly. I feel like I'm in the gym for hours, you know?
Yep. Yeah, totally. When you have that, it requires that ultimate focus of the now, like you were saying, and you know, like really, it's cool because it's like a quick tempoed way to learn more about your body, even if you are a pretty like elite athlete. I feel like it still offers a lot of like exploration into how your body works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So, but yeah, that's kind of like my normal program. And then when I can, I love to. I mean, I work out. Actually, I have. I mean, every athlete, I guess, is different. Some just do it based on natural talent. Some do it, you know, based on all sorts of things. But I have always been one that liked to work out and trying to be as fit as possible so that I can do whatever it is that I do better, you know. And so now I actually travel with just like a stick TheraBand to where I can use that for exercises, and then also a jump rope. So that if I'm stuck in an airport or something like that, I can like do an hour workout, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I've been sticking to like some HIIT workouts. I got myself a jump rope about a year ago, and yeah, man, I'm the same type of person where like if I have a list and every possible thing that could have made me prepared is checked off, then I'm like, if I'm in the starting gate and I'm like, I know my skis are good, I know my bindings are good, I know I've been working out, I know I ate good, all those things, then I don't need to worry about anything besides just being in the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
And
It's just like
yeah, I'm
one
definitely the
factor you
same.
like don't even question, you know? Like Alexei Godbu is a perfect example of that. When you go like when you're around Alexei, like the dude is so solid, you know, like he's been training his whole life, and like like if he's gonna take a hit, it's just like he's 9 times out of 10, like it's not even gonna like bother him. And the things that you see him stomp, you're just like, that's not that's not like he is super talented, but my point is like it's not just talent based. Like he is super fit and strong, so that when he hits a flat landing, it doesn't even he just like blows right through it because he's so strong, you know?
Yep. Yeah, totally. David Wise is the same way, where he's, constantly training and constantly lifting and optimizing his body to
Yeah.
be that way. And you can tell in their skiing. You can totally tell.
Yeah, you can totally tell like when you see like a person of any gender too. It doesn't matter if it's like what it is, but you can watch somebody ski and you can see, especially when they ski pillows, if they're not super strong and aggressive, they're just like, you just get like bounced all over the place and you become a noodle, you know? Because a lot of times like that, if the snow's not deep enough and you're skiing pillows, that's like, I feel like where it brings it out. Whereas like you could ski like in a line in Alaska or like a steep landing, and you can hit a 30-footer to a steep landing and not be very strong, and then you can like still come out of it.
What is the reasoning behind keeping the rep maxes to like a 4-rep max instead of a 1-rep max? I assume it's like joint degradation, avoiding joint degradation, but just wondering.
Well, I guess it's a few things. Yeah, I don't even know where to start. For one, a lot of like what I'm doing, I'm not I'm not trying to get bigger. I'm trying to just get stronger, essentially. So by doing like those 1-rep maxes, I don't feel it really benefits me. And then there's a theory that like some of the like actually like MMA trainers and stuff, there's one guy, um, and he has a good philosophy on it. You know, it's like one of those things where if you can like do your 1-rep max and whatever it is, say you're, let's just go with like a max rep of anything, like you can do 10 pull-ups. So if you go into the gym and then you do 10 pull-ups, or you squat like 400 pounds. So you go in and you squat 400 pounds, and then your legs are so sore that you can't squat until like, say that's Monday, then you go to like Thursday or Friday, and then you squat 400 pounds again, right? Well, if you cut the weight in half and you can squat 200 pounds and you do more reps, say you do 200 pounds or even 100 pounds and you do 10 reps a day, but you can squat all week long, then the volume that you're doing just goes up so much that by the end of the week or the month or the year, you're doing so much more volume in the gym that essentially you're going to be stronger.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
If you just power yourself through and, say it's like the 10 pull-up thing and you just like grunt out 10 pull-ups and then you can't do pull-ups till the end of the week. Well, if I'm doing like 5 and then 6 and then 7 pull-ups like throughout the week, like you're going to be doing 20, I'm going to be doing like 30 or 40, you know? So it's kind of like one of those deals because, you know, you don't want to completely burn yourself out. For one, because I need to be able to ride or ski, and then also because I want to be able to be like back in the gym. So
Yeah, totally. How many days do you normally spend in the gym a week?
if I'm at home, I'll do 4 or 5 days a week.
What does your nutrition look like? Do you have a specific diet? Obviously, it's hard on the road to like stick to a diet sometimes. So
You know, being on the road, I feel like can be hard at times, but I feel like it's almost a personal choice. It's like you have to be, I guess, a stronger person if you like want to stick to anything, whether it's on the road or you're at home. But now I have a really specific diet, and I'm pretty strict on doing like time restricted eating or intermittent fasting, to where now I definitely stick within a 12-hour period, but I try and eat around like a 10-hour period, like 9 to 10 if I can. And for those that don't know, like what that means and and how that affects your circadian clock is basically like if you from the time I wake up in the morning, so like I got up at 6 this morning, go to the gym at 7, back at 8, and I haven't had anything to eat yet, just because I'm like not hungry. But so now it's 8:45 in the morning. So if I eat something now, I won't eat past 8:45 at night. And most people think, even I thought it was just like, oh, that's mellow. That's like not that bad. And then when I start thinking about it, it's just like, well, okay, well, I get up at 4 in the morning a lot of times to go snowmobiling, and I have a cup of coffee with coconut milk and food when I'm going out the door. Well, that's 4 in the morning. Okay. So I don't usually get home until probably 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So that just takes that intermittent fasting and it just like blows it out of the water. So now I'm eating on like probably a 16-hour schedule. And the theory behind that is you want your metabolism and your body to catch up in between eating. And that kind of couples in with basically my diet, which now I'm like do strictly a ketogenic diet. And for ketogenic is the classic 90% fat, 8% protein, 2% carbohydrates. And mine's probably lower than that. I'm probably somewhere around like that modified Atkins of like 80% fat with way more protein and a bit of carbohydrates, because you know those guys like Ben Greenfield, you know, I don't know, he is just a psychopath. That guy's like done so much, but you know, he kind of is like, when you listen to people like Dom D'Agostino and other people that are proponents of the ketogenic diet, Ben Greenfield I think is more applicable to me, because you know, when you listen to like Dom or like Rhonda Patrick and people like that, or Joe Rogan, talk about how, you know, you want to be, for instance, like that 98.2, that doesn't really apply so much to me because I'm doing so much during out the day. I'm going to the gym, and then like if I'm shooting or filming, I'm on my bike all day. Or like when I was in Hawaii, you know, I'd go and I'd surf for like an hour or two in the morning, and then we'd go behind the house. We were working on a film project, so you know, I'd dig for like 6 or 7 hours in the sun, and then ride for like 4 hours at the end of the day. So being able to take in like maybe, you know, 100 to 200 grams of carbohydrates, I would still be in a ketogenic state, sticking to the diet that I normally stick to, you know?
Totally. I love that you're confirming. Like, I have been on that same like intermittent fasting and keto on and off. Like, I'll do keto for a month and then I'll eat carbs for a month, just because I've partied really hard in the past and I feel like my liver starts to get taxed from all the fat sometimes. So I'll like,
Yeah, I feel like if you aren't staying really hydrated, I think that affects things a lot.
that's good to know.
You know, like I've noticed that. I mean, you want to have a lot of water in your system, and I even noticed that. I I don't feel it in my body necessarily, but if I'm not staying really hydrated, I can feel my mouth dries out when I'm staying strictly on a ketogenic diet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, totally. I was able to eat, 100 or 150 grams of carbs and stay in ketosis. I was testing my blood, for a couple weeks there just to like monitor and see how far I could push how many carbs I was eating, because I tried to eat some carbs after working or before working out, and I didn't feel like I got knocked out of ketosis. So I was like continually trying to push it. And then I'm like, I might as well just start testing my blood and documenting it. And it's crazy how many carbs you can eat when you're really fat adapted already. And then when you are expending that many calories in a day, it's so crazy how many carbs you can eat and stay in ketosis.
yeah, and it's interesting because I started doing it because a friend of mine who's a Chinese medicine doctor here in town, and her husband who's an ex-volleyball, like Olympic. They're both like Olympic athletes or whatever, and he played pro volleyball for 15 years, so they're obviously fairly knowledgeable on training and stuff like that. And so they started telling me about it, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "That sounds absurd," because there's that classic idea that
Yeah.
fat's bad for you, and when I started doing a lot of research because she was she started it because she wanted to make sure that the diet was good before recommending it to her clients. And so I started looking into it, and I was traveling a bunch at the time. So I was just listening to podcasts and then reading like medical papers and this and that. And yeah, when you realize that, the sugar industry in the US actually bribed the New England Journal of Medicine to push papers through. I think it was like in the 50s. Like the New York Times just did a big study on this. And and yeah, that refined sugar is like the number one cause of, high blood pressure, heart disease, and that it's not actually from fat. So then, like when I started thinking about that, I was like, okay, well maybe I'll give this a shot, because um, one of the things that really got me excited about is the idea that I could go out and I'm going to have more streamlined energy. So for me, it's like I'm almost an endurance athlete, not in the sense obviously that I'm doing like an Ironman, but still like I need to get up at 4 or 5 in the morning or whatever sunrise is, and then I'm out all day long. So if I have a better, more sustained energy source, that essentially is going to make me be able to ski better or ride all day long and not drop off. And I noticed that when I was just shooting in Park City, and the other athlete was, he's a friend of mine, but it was pretty funny. He was like, we got up at, I think like whatever, 4 in the morning to go shoot sunrise. And then, he just told them like, oh, well, I mean, we'll shoot till 10, but I need to come back and like I need to rest and like eat food and like maybe take a nap until the afternoon. And I just kind of laughed. I was like, I'm good, I'll do whatever. And I ended up having to shoot all day long because I do the ski and bike stuff for Shred. So I just went ahead and like I got done. He went to sleep. I went into the office. I just like kept shooting all day long, and then went back up, and then we met up and we got done. I think at 10 o'clock at night, 9:30. So, and that's one too. Like you were saying, where it must be hard to like eat and travel and be on the road all the time. But so
I get you now,
yeah, I'm
for sure.
yeah. So I'm doing the ketogenic diet, but for me, like when I'm on the road, and I know, for instance, okay, well, we're not going to be back at 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night, and there's no way that I'm going to eat that late. So I just plan it into my day. So I knew that we were going up there, and I knew I didn't want to eat past, I think, 6 o'clock or something like that. So I took a tin of like sardines, which is really good and soaked in olive oil, and then I took 2 avocados and I just ate that, and then I was fine.
Yeah, totally. What are the staples of your diet? Obviously you said sardines and avocado. And before we get into that, it makes total sense that like for you, you're like, I don't like it's just a decision, because I've done the keto and the intermittent fasting, and at that point it's just about discipline and regimenting your own life. And if you want to make it happen, you're going to make it happen. And there's there's going to be resistance, and you're not going to let it get in your way, period. So you're like, yeah, I get you on that one. Now that you describe what your diet is like, totally understand it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, it's fully life choice. And it's crazy too, because like, it's almost like that same peer pressure that you get from people when it comes to like drinking or something like that. And people are like, dude, what? Well, come on. Well, you're not gonna drink with us? It's like, no. But like, I came home from India, and I actually like, I just wanted to see, because traveling through time zones is really hard. So what I'll do is just like, say I fall asleep on the plane, like traveling home, it was like 40 hours or something like that from India. So I just set a timer. So I slept, and then I waited for the 12-hour mark before I ate again. And then I reset the timer so that I knew when I got home here to Whistler what it would be. And I think the 12-hour mark was like somewhere through like mid-afternoon, like 3 o'clock or something. But with the ketogenic diet, it works well for intermittent fasting, because you don't get super hungry, because you're burning off your fat stores, So I got home, and I went and I met a couple friends here in town, and they're like, dude, we're at the restaurant, whatever. I went and met them, and they're like, order some food. And I was like, no, I'm good. I just came to hang. I'm like, what? What do you mean you're not going to eat? Be like, I'm good. And they're like, dude, you got to eat. I'm like, no, I don't. And they're like, are you kidding? Like, you seriously? And I'm like, no. Like, but at a certain point, you're just like, are you kidding me? Like, how has it come down to that? Like, there's such like I don't know, like a perception of just like, you have to eat 3 times a day, and you eat at breakfast, you eat in the middle of the day, and then you eat when everyone else eats. And, but it's interesting. You really have to just like, and now, I mean, with that, or kind of anything in life now, I just kind of realize like, like I'm doing what I'm doing. If you want to eat, go eat. And you just don't really listen or care when somebody tries to pressure you into having a whatever, Red Bull.
Yeah, I don't drink either, and it's definitely interesting to see the way that people will add pressure to a situation. Like I can kind of get that people want to eat together and eat the same thing on a like instinctual level, because like generally you ate together and you ate the same thing like way back in the day. But then at the same point, it's like we all like it's weird that other people want to reach out and control or like reject another person's just like way of living, because they like, even if it doesn't affect them in any way. I don't know. Yeah, it's strange. Very strange.
Yeah.
But yeah, what are the staples? You said sardines, avocados. Do you eat like bacon, meat?
Yeah, I do eat meat, and for me, like, it doesn't, meat's fine with me, and I mean, I'm a big proponent of ketogenic diet. I mean, there's a lot of pluses, from treating cancer to epilepsy and seizures to having a more streamlined energy for me. But I mean, people also need to know. I mean, you need to know what your blood type is before you like start changing your diet or something like that. So I mean, I'm a type A, and so I went through, and like, I work well with, I don't work super great with red meat, because there's like negatives, positives, and then neutrals for each blood type. But I do really well with like coconut oil, um, MCT oil, which is obviously a derivative of coconut oil, and then avocados and those type of fats. But I can do red meat as well, and I do fine on that. So.
Dude, I love that I have someone else that I can talk to about all these like nerdy things, because there's definitely a lot of people that are just like, what, you want to eat all fat? It's crazy.
Yeah, but it's one of those things. This is the amazing thing about, like, for instance, ketogenic. Everybody has a perception of anything in life, whether they admit it or not. And people are like, "Oh, you do keto because it's a CrossFit diet," and you're like, "No, actually, like, well, that's where it came from." And you're like, "Really?" like, why don't you back that with some scientific facts? Tell me like where you did your research, you know? Like, oh wait, it came from the 1930s. Like that's when they developed it, you know, to treat seizures and epilepsy. I mean, a lot of people don't know any of that stuff. You just kind of like have a common idea, but even the research I did kind of blew my mind because yeah, I thought fat was not what you wanted to have in your system, you know? And when you start researching it and realizing that the pluses of the diet, and I'm actually almost 10 pounds lighter now on an 80% fat-based diet than I was before. And before I would do like a pretty lean diet of just like vegetables and chicken because I'm allergic to gluten, so I don't eat any bread or anything anyway. So, and I've always been on a fairly, well, not always, but in the last however many years on a pretty low sugar diet. So, and now it essentially is like no sugar because I don't eat any fruit either. So
It's pretty awesome when you can break it down and tell people, you know, like there's actually kind of a fourth macronutrient. It's called the ketone body. It has 5.6 calories per, you know, and like when you can break it down for someone and explain to them that like on a cellular level that the mitochondria uses this for fuel in a more efficient way than glucose and like all those things, and then people start like they're like, oh, you actually know what you're talking about and you actually know like the science behind it. But yeah, it's crazy the stigma that's been created. And really like it's like polyunsaturated fats and sugar in the presence of each other that create massive inflammation, you know. But I mean sugar in general. But yeah, dude, love it. Nerding out about food science is one of my favorite things.
yeah, and I mean I noticed too. I started doing the diet, and then you know I was on it for probably a month, and I feel like it's slowly even getting better and better and better. Just how my body adapts to it. But I noticed when I was in India for like a 2 week trip, and that is the one of the only places. Because for me now, like traveling and with my diet, I've always been pretty particular because I don't eat bread and gluten and stuff like that. Um, but it's a little harder when you like get to far out places like that to stay like on a ketogenic diet because you just don't have those options, you know? And so in the beginning though, because we were going to stores, because I usually travel with like, I always travel now with like MCT powder, typically avocados. And usually that's kind of like my staple. And then I'll either, it's so retarded. I'll even like, I even put like meat or like chorizo, like a stick of chorizo in my bag because then if I get to the airport or any place and I'm hungry, then like I'm set. You know, I don't need to go anywhere. I know what I'm eating. I know what works well with my body. I know what's going to make me feel good. So anyway, I was pretty good for the first 4 or 5 days, and then we went up into the Himalayas. Like we were on the border of Nepal, so we were going up to this lake that was just over 16,500 feet, and I noticed that after like 2, 3 days, I finally had to switch because they were serving us, you know, dal but usually with a lot of rice. And after like 2, 3 days, I was like fully kicked out of ketosis because I started getting hungry throughout the day, and I noticed that if I didn't eat, my energy levels were dropping off. So I switched from like basically burning ketones, going back to like working off of glucose. And I did fine on the trip, but I noticed such a difference in like my energy level that they weren't sustained throughout the day. So, but it's pretty cool. Like when you start doing that to actually see the benefit and in yourself, you know, and then see like if it's like, is this working, you know, and to see that firsthand is pretty cool. And then that also makes you like motivated. It's like easy to stick to the diet that you're on because you just feel and you operate so much better.
Yeah, totally. And you actually get results from it. That's, I think, you know, one of the big things about the diet is that I actually felt like real results. And, there are times where I was like running or biking or lifting, and it's like what should have been my limit, prior to ketosis was just non-existent anymore. I could just keep on going and keep on going, and it was awesome. It's so funny that you say that you bring chorizo with you, because I am totally the dude that I'll bake a pack of bacon, and I'll bring a bag of bacon with me. Like, to the airport, I went to the Tesla factory in January to go tour it with some entrepreneurs, and legit, I just brought a bag of bacon and some avocados and some almonds.
Yeah.
And that was like, that was what I brought with me. And that, like, I flew in for 24 hours and I was golden, the whole time.
Yeah.
It's
amazing too,
hilarious.
just running off of like MCT, just MCT in general. Like, it's pretty amazing because I started using the powder because it's a little bit easier on your stomach. I noticed that, but I'll have a coffee now. Like, I'm still like, I just got back from the gym. It's 9 o'clock. And this is the other thing that I found that is really incredible is your mind you're just programmed to eat, which I've noticed, because when I started doing the intermittent fasting, I really focused on, am I hungry or not? And the majority of the time you're just like, I'm just eating. Like, am I hungry? No, I'm not hungry. Well, why am I going to eat breakfast if I'm not even hungry? And then I'll wait until I start to get hungry. There's some days where it's like, I don't know, it's like 12 o'clock and I haven't eaten anything, but I'm like running. I'm not tired. And, I'm like still riding my bike. I just went to the gym. I like worked out. I feel fine. So, changing like when you eat based off of actually being hungry makes such a difference, I feel like, for me.
Totally. Yeah, for me as well. I have even experimented with eating in a 4-hour period. And so I will go sometimes till 4 in the afternoon without eating anything. And then I'll eat just like, 2,000 calories in 4 hours. And then I'm done at 8. And that's a little extreme, but that even like I'll get some stomach pains in the morning if I don't have enough water, if I am dehydrated. But for me, a lot of the time, what shows up as hunger is really dehydration and thirst. And distinguishing between those feelings, like before, I just kind of assumed, like, I guess I unconsciously was unaware that they were showing up the same when they were actually completely different, which is crazy.
Yeah, I've kind of heard that as well. I mean, I definitely know in my body when I'm thirsty and when I'm hungry, but yeah, it does affect things. And it actually is a good way to, like, if you are a little ways out of being able to eat, just like drinking water actually will carry you over until you get there.
Yeah, totally. Do you have any morning or evening routines that you stick to, like religiously, to like with traveling or anything like that?
No, not really. Basically, I guess like the intermittent fasting, where it's like, just knowing like when I'm eating and stuff like that, just aware of that. But yeah, no, not really. I mean, morning routine, I always have coffee in the morning. I have coffee kind of throughout the day just because I love coffee more than anything.
Coffee is so good.
Yeah. Other than that, I don't. Yeah, that's kind of like my only routine. I don't really have anything in the evening. I should probably stretch, but I don't. Yeah, that's about it. Play the guitar in the evening, usually in the winter at least.
Yeah, totally. You ever do any sort of like meditation or mindfulness practices, or is it just kind of like you're mindful of your day as you are going about it?
Yeah, I guess I do. I am pretty bad about it. I can tell like it really does help even if you do like a short meditation just to clear out your mind for 10, 15 minutes or something like that, do like breathing exercise and then like to either start or usually like to end the day, kind of shut your mind down. And I never end up doing it. And I know that it benefits me greatly. And usually in the morning, I usually go through and think about what I'm doing as I get up, like what I'm doing in life, what I want to be doing, what I want, and then just kind of go on with the day, try and run that through my mind every morning, whether it's where I want to go in skiing, what trips I want to do, people I want to work with. And then just like all the things that I'm thankful for, with like being able to ski and bike and have a house, all this stuff. I just kind of like run through that every morning.
Totally. Love it. Obviously what you do, sometimes you have to have some sort of fear, I would assume. What is one technique you use to overcome or mitigate fear?
I kind of am at this point. I definitely wouldn't say like I'm religious, but one of the things, a book that like changed things a lot for me in my life, there's a book called Many Lives, Many Masters. And I feel like everybody should probably read that book. And that book actually changed things a lot for me, because I kind of personally of the opinion that, we're here for whatever, we're here for a reason, and once you when it's your time to go, it's your time to go. You know what I mean? And so reading that book and then having a few things happen to me, like I got caught in a huge avalanche in Alaska a couple of years ago, and easily could have died in that slide. And just it just felt, strangely like it was definitely not my time to go. Although when I was in it, I like had the whole thing, my family, everything like flashed, but my whole life just flashed literally like through my brain, like a slideshow, and like time lapse through my mind in probably like the 30 seconds that I was in that slide. And but now I feel like I just kind of like deal with fear more in the sense where obviously I'm not just gonna like go huck myself off like a 500-foot cliff and be like, oh, I guess if I'm gonna make it, I'm gonna make it. Like you got to use your brain to like navigate through life. But at the same sense, like I'm doing something that is gonna scare me, whether it's like on skis or a bike or even on a surfboard, whatever it is. But realistically, I think in my mind, I should be able to stick this. And if it's so ridiculous that I'm scared, but I like don't think that it's gonna work out, then I'm not gonna do it, But I kind of like take that fear and realize that for me, that means that I'm at the edge to where I'm pushing myself, and that is where I want to be. But I also know that if you go too much further past that, like if say I'm going to ski a line and like I'm scared because there's like a 40-50 footer down there, and I'm going to flip that, I have that in my head, but I legitimately think that I can flip that and I can stick that, I'm going to do it. But if there's a 200-foot cliff down there and I'm terrified and I'm just like, like you have to have like some bit of reasoning in there. But that's essentially how I deal with it. It's just like that reasoning that you think that you're going to be able to pull it off. That's kind of how I deal with fear, I guess.
Love it. I definitely think that, there's a lot to be said about everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear or uncomfort. And, like you said, there's obviously a level of like using your head and not being the Jerry who thinks that he can, be the hero. But there's also knowing that you can be the hero if you've taken the time and practiced and refined your craft and your skill and your expertise, that it's totally, you can be that.
Yeah.
Where's one of your favorite places you've ever traveled? You've traveled a lot of places.
Probably Japan. I mean, Canada's amazing. But yeah, probably Japan. It's pretty simple, I think.
Yeah, totally. What about Japan do you like so much?
The people are great there. They're respectful, honorable, kind people, and I love. I mean, the food is great over there, and the snow's amazing. The mountains are great, amazing coastline. Tokyo's fun as well for bits and doses, But yeah, just kind of like everything all combined. The people, the food, landscape there is great.
Totally. Um, do you have a favorite travel tip or hack that you're willing to share with my audience?
A travel tip or hack? Yeah, that's kind of a tough one because, um, yeah, I don't even know. Best travel tip would be maybe travel with your own food, I guess. I mean, everybody's just so different. For me, that's like a big travel tip. Is just because I don't want to get somewhere and then be like, I just don't want to get somewhere and be screwed because I don't have any food. So finding out what food you like and traveling with that, I think that's like the best thing ever.
Totally. Yeah, I think that's super important. Um, what do you think about climate change and the social condition and through all of your traveling, you've gotten to see a lot of the world and if you're willing, what's your perspective on all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's affecting everything. Uh, there's there's POW, which everybody should probably get involved in, and but I think that one thing that I noticed with climate change is all of us that are snow athletes are pretty aware. And I was just talking to Jake and the guys at POW about this because I feel like there's a lot of people that aren't involved in skiing and snowboarding that aren't really aware. Like they kind of know about it and they're like, yeah, yeah, climate change and like and like the like places are like the environment's hotter or something, right? And you're just like, people don't realize that if you don't have a solid snowpack in a good winter, that's going to drastically affect the amount of water that everyone has, you know? And so I think that, I guess it's maybe not taken seriously enough, or people aren't really fully aware that aren't involved in winter sports, basically.
Yeah, what do you think that we can do to, create more awareness? Is there anything that you are doing? I know it's hard. Like sometimes it's easier to just be like, screw it. But is there anything you're doing? Just, having more conversations about it or?
Um, yeah, I think it's just more conversations, and talking to people when I'm traveling is like one of the things I guess that you can do. But I mean, I definitely do not have the answer. I do not know what or how to overcome like the state that we're at right now. So I think there's like, there's one thing for me right now that's like pretty maybe small and insignificant, and I try and get everybody to do it is, and I think it's like all like everybody contributes here and there, but one of them is just like, because I love having coffee. So get your own coffee cup. Like you see so many people that go in, and even people that I see that are fully aware of it, and they go in and they get a nice coffee, and you have like a plastic cup with a plastic straw, and then it's just like done. It's just like, dude, really? Like you couldn't like fill that up, like with your own coffee cup, you know? And the amount of times you go throughout the day, it like bugs me so much now. Or if like I want to get a coffee and like for some reason I don't have my thermos, and I'm like, sweet, like I'm just gonna use this. I'm gonna drink this in probably 5 minutes and then just instantly throw it away. Like I was in Fruita, Colorado, a place where, you know, you would think people are pretty aware. You know, it's a huge mountain biking community. And one of the main coffee shops there, I like went in and I just went to get some water, and there's a stack of plastic cups, and then there's a stack of mugs to my left. And I just asked before I like went and grabbed the mug, but I was like, hey, can I grab this for some water? And the guy's like, there's cups right there. And I was like, yeah, or I could just use this, drink some water, you rinse it out, put it back. Think about that, and not throw away a cup. And he looked at me like, he was just like, huh, wow, I guess you could do that. Huh. And I like grabbed it, drank it, handed it to him, and he just like rinsed it out, put it right back, and he went back to work. He had like never even thought about that. You know what I mean? And there was literally a garbage can that was waist high filled full of cups. It's just like, you guys are idiots, you know? But I mean, who knows? Maybe that one conversation, maybe they like got rid of the plastic cups, you know? I mean, Mount Curry Coffee here in Whistler, everything's like reusable there, you know, other than the cups that obviously not everybody's going to have, you know, a to-go cup, and people that are traveling, so they still do that. But I mean, all the stuff there, unless you're taking it out of the store, is going to get lost and put back through. So anyway, that's my rant. But
Yep. No, I totally agree. And I think it does, you know, it just movements start with a little bit of noise, and a little bit of noise, you know, becoming more and more until, you know, there is a buzz about it, and it is, you know, finally trending, and people want to do it because other people have jumped in and, you know, fully support it. But yeah, I think it does take us who are aware, you know, bringing up the conversation and trying to, understand each other's point of view, but also articulate what we feel and think is right.
yeah, not everybody thinks something different. A lot of people think that there's no such thing as climate change and everything's the same, and you know, good for them. You know, I wish I could be like that. That'd be great.
Oh man. They say ignorance is bliss. I wonder what it's like. What's one piece of advice you'd pass along to someone that wants to do what you do?
I don't know. I mean, I guess when it comes down to it, it's just be like the power of the mind. You're literally like, I actually believe that. I had this conversation with my dad the other day, and I was like, you can do anything that you put your mind to. And he was like, well, no, you can't. And I just said, yes, you can. But he's just like, not everyone can go out and decide that they're going to be a professional skier and just go and do it. There are some people out there that they do not have that talent. And my my take on that though is, you can do anything that you put your mind to. You know, a perfect example of that is Steven Spielberg, because Steven Spielberg couldn't get into film school, and he wanted to become a director and make movies. So he snuck onto the set at Universal Studios, you know, and he kept going there, and he like whatever finally met the studio head and made a short film. Obviously now he's like massive, but if you quit when people tell you that you can't, you need to be strong-minded enough to just keep going and go until you decide that maybe that's not your path. But if you want to do something, just go ahead and do it, and be strong enough to like not listen to anybody else. Because for me, I mean, the amount of people that told me I'd never ever make it as a pro skier, you know, through high school, and like even friends just laughing in my face, and I just like, I didn't take no for an answer, and well, now I'm a professional skier. And the same thing happened at Rampage. You know, I had Pat Fuas, all the guys, like all the like peers that I thought were like awesome, but basically laughing in my face. And now, 2 years later, I got an athlete invite to Rampage and was an athlete. And now I ski and I ride mountain bikes full time as an athlete, making money and supporting myself. So if I would have listened to any of those people, I wouldn't have been here, you know? And I just see that a lot where people like kind of back off of what they want to do because somebody told them they couldn't. It was just like, who cares? Like, I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do, you know, and just be strong-minded enough to do anything.
Totally, man. I wholeheartedly agree. I think we let ourselves get in our own way so much. All of us have $1,000,000 ideas almost every day, and it's just the fact that we don't actually feel passionate enough to pursue them, and then we let excuses get in our way to inhibit us from being, doing, and having everything that we want. And it's kind of crazy. I love that.
Yeah, that's it.
Is there one piece of advice or encouragement that you received that stuck with you? It may be, similar. But yeah, is there anything that stuck with you from maybe your parents or a coach or?
Well, there's one piece of advice, I guess, that's like really stand out. But I was actually going to college, and I was there for like a year and a half. I was going to school at TMCC in Reno. And my dad told me that I was wasting my time. He was just like, your brother is just super talented with, I guess, he's like super talented when it comes to like math. And, he's an academic. And he's like, you're not an academic. He's just like, I think you're wasting your time and money. You should do something else and follow like what you want to do or use your hands or whatever. So I quit going to school and began first year.
That's awesome. What were you studying?
It's like general studies, Spanish, I don't know, accounting, just miserable stuff.
If you could have one significant impact in the world, what would it be?
I guess I'd have a significant, that's like a tough call. I don't know whether to go with like a significant impact with climate change or a significant impact in empowering people in their own mind to do what they want to do, You
can say both. We can do two.
Yeah, I'd probably take both and maybe err on the side of climate change because just like if you just empower people to do something, maybe somebody's just like, I just want to make like $400 million off of like drilling and like, like opening up a bunch of like oil fields. So maybe I'll just stick with the first.
Yep. Awesome, man. What's one of your favorite memories through this whole journey? Anything that stands out that's like some of the most fun you've ever had, some of the most, just one of the most enjoyable experiences you've had through the biking or skiing journey so far?
I think the first time I went to Japan, that was definitely one. I'd wanted to go there for so long. And then my first time in Haines in Alaska sledding, that was an incredible year. It was like the end to Blank, which is that was the movie project that I started that year with Alexi Godbout, and it was our stepped out underneath filming for Poor Boys for a while and Blurs, and then to do like our own movie that was independent. That was like a pretty big deal, and had an incredible year in Alaska, and then being in the Gobi Desert for biking in China, that was a pretty good one. And then probably getting that athlete invite for Rampage. That's one I'll definitely never. That was like a pretty good moment, like I was sitting actually with Kelly McGarry when he was still around and at Interbike when I got the email, and I was just like blown away. So yeah, I don't know, probably those.
Totally, man. Is there anything else that you want to say?
Yeah, I guess just thanks for having me on. Thanks. I mean, this is kind of generic, but it is pretty cool, and I really appreciate all the sponsors that appreciate me and have me do what it is that I do. I feel super lucky to do it, and yeah, I don't know, I'm just stoked to be here, and yeah, I hope that I guess somebody like took something out of this that maybe it would benefit them, even if it's one person. But yeah, I don't know. Thanks.
a wrap for this week's episode with Casey Deane. I hope you guys really enjoyed the fitness and nutrition aspect. Casey is just a freak of nature when it comes to being a multi-sport professional athlete and someone who is capable of overcoming a lot. If you want to follow his journey, he is on Instagram at KCDeane, DEANE. And I hope you guys really enjoyed this show. As always, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. I always really appreciate it. And we'll see you next week.